Hello, this is Dr. Dennis Bielfeldt of the Christ School of Theology. We're talking today about Spinoza, and of course this is part of our ongoing investigation into the basically the history of philosophy here and how it might impact the theological tradition. What we have seen with Spinoza, and of course there's Spinoza again, the name, is that there is one substance, and that one substance is God. There are an infinite number of attributes of God, but we know two of them, and that is mind and body. The attribute of body is extension. The attribute of mind is thinking, right? And now there can be then modes of, down here, of material bodies, and then there can be modes of the mental, which are ideas. Now these two realms are causally closed in independent regions. This is what's very interesting about his thought. Everything here happens, of course, through necessity, and we can find any cause for any effect, and the cause necessarily brings about the effect. Over on this side, our ideas are logically strung together with the same kind of inexorability. Not an inexorability of the physical, but now an inexorability of the mental. For instance, if A, then B, if B, then C, A, then C follows, right? So that is a necessity of thought. And his idea is that, of course, the same kind of necessity is over here that's over here, and that the same underlying reality, of course, is being presented through two different attributes, mind and body. And we can see these modes. The same thing could have a mode that would be a physical mode or a mental mode. I have a brain and a mind, for instance, and the brain would be a mode under the attribute of extension, and my mind would be a mode under the attribute of mind, right? My mind. Okay, so there is no causal interaction between the two, right? Because there's only one thing. Remember, with Descartes, he was a substance dualist. Now with Spinoza, we have a substance monism, right? There's only one thing. There is a correlation and a parallelism between these attributes, but finally, they're all one thing. He writes, a mode of extension and the idea of that mode are one of the same thing, but expressed in two ways. See? Thought and extension are two ways of comprehending the one divine nature. A couple Spinoza quotes. I know you've been waiting for them. A circle consisting in nature and the idea of the existing circle, which is also in God, are one and the same thing, which is explained through different attributes. Therefore, whether we conceive nature under the attribute of extension, or under the attribute of thought, or under any other attribute, we shall find one and the same order, right? Or one and the same connection of causes, i.e., that the same things follow one another. Or again, he writes, the order and connection of ideas is the same as the order and connection of all things. Now this is a wonderful thought. I mean, this is a big thought. The order and connection of ideas is the same as the order and connection of things. It's pretty hard to see how exactly that's true, but we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt here. We could call Spinoza a neutral monist, right? That the one divine nature is described under two different kinds of attributes, or two different kinds of descriptions, bodily or mental. Of course, there are others, but these are the only ones we can access, presumably. So a neutral monist would not say that the ultimate thing is mind, nor the ultimate thing is matter, but would say that mind and mental language describe the same reality from different points of view, right? So whereas Descartes is a substance dualist, allowing causal interaction between the stuffs of mind and matter, Spinoza is a substance monist, He would be sometimes referred to as a dual aspect theorist. You could claim that he's an identity theorist, right? And we have to be careful with all of this. When we lay out language like this, we're taking up particular positions in the philosophy of mind. I don't want to get into that too deeply. Well, just as God is both thought and extension, so a human being is both body and mind, right? We don't need to look for causality between mental things and bodily things. There's no causality. The mind-body problem goes away if we see it correctly. It's just two different presentations of the same reality under different attributes. Well, epistemologically, we can see Spinoza as radicalizing Descartes' thought. If Descartes is a rationalist, Spinoza is an uber-rationalist, right? There is no adequate knowledge of things through sense perception. If you want to know something, you better go reason discursively. Through reason, ideas are rationally ordered, and they are seen as true of the essence of things. Reason, it is reason that is the apprehension of the essence of a thing through deductive inference. Okay? The adequate idea of a thing situates it in a causal nexus that shows not only that a thing is, but how and why it is as well. So if we want to know a thing, right, we can know it under the attribute of the mental, we can know it under the attribute of the physical, but the thing that's known is known in now two different modes, but that thing is situated with respect to the mental in the same way that it's kind of situated with respect to the physical, that there's some kind of isomorphism going on here. And so to know a thing is to know it in its context, which is the whole context is God, right? But we can know it either as it relates to other ideas in its logical relationships, or as it relates to other things in its causal relationships. Spinoza says, he writes, "It is of the nature of reason to regard things as necessary and not contingent, and reason perceives this necessity of things truly, as in itself. But this necessity of things is the very necessity of God's eternal nature. Therefore, it is the nature of reason to regard things under the species of eternity." Okay, so now this is another little notion that's coming into play here. Just as a triangle can be unpacked, and of course it takes us time to unpack all the truths of a triangle, and Euclid does that for many pages, right? Many different theorems. But yet all those truths are already present and there, even though it takes us some time to unpack them. In the same way, God's nature is already present and there, and in a sense, time is unreal with respect to this nature of God. I mean, it takes us some time to apprehend these things, and so we don't see things easily sub specie aeternitatis as they are. But truly, time itself is not ultimately meaningful in the total description of the thing. All things lay out in certain ways. They are lay out from the very nature of God. And so time becomes a way they lay out. Okay, he writes, "The knowledge of God's eternal and infinite essence, that each idea involves is adequate and perfect." Okay, each idea is adequate and perfect. The human mind has an adequate knowledge of God's eternal and infinite essence. Just think of that. I mean, this guy's an uber-rationalist. The human mind has an adequate knowledge of God's eternal and infinite essence. So the human mind, over here somewhere, can have knowledge of all of this. Well, we can only have knowledge of all this if it's deeply that in the first place, right? All right, I'll be right back with one last lecture on Spinoza, and I'm Dr. Dennis Bielfeldt of the Christ School of Theology. Thank you.